Hello there. At some point in your life, you might have walked past a lottery ticket vending machine or come across a lottery ad, and the temptation of winning that humongous prize money might have got the best of you. And you might have ended up with your first lottery ticket. You might have been anxiously waiting for the winning numbers, hoping that the numbers sound familiar. Familiar enough that they match exactly with the numbers printed on your ticket. Millions of people share the same sentiments each year. In fact, the lottery industry is quite a steadily growing industry across the globe. US alone, in 2020 recorded $89 billion in lottery sales, with the largest US Powerball reaching a whopping $1.586 billion in January 2016. According to CNN Money, the spendings on lottery tickets is more than the combined spendings on books, music, sports teams, movies, and video games. Lotteries have been a part of our history for quite some time. They have been traced all the way back to ancient Rome. But today, we are going to focus on the first ever recorded lottery. It was held by Queen Elizabeth in 1568 in England. Now I know, there might be at least one viewer out there whose inner historian is raging right now because he read somewhere about the lotteries carried out much before 1568. For example, in 1446, the widow of great Flemish painter Jan van Eyck dispensed many of his remaining artworks in a fundraising raffle after Jan van Eyck's death. Not much comparable to the modern lotteries, but still a lottery nonetheless. We can go even deeper in the history. Legend has it that a traditional lottery system known as Keno was used to raise funds to partly finance the Great Wall of China. But the word legend is quite important here, as there aren't any documented records to substantially double the belief. Hence, the word recorded in the title. In fact, there are enough reasons to believe that Larry here from 10,000 BC was the first ever lottery winner. And this, in fact, is his original picture. Isn't it true, Larry? But Larry went all nuts and spent all night igniting sparks with his jackpot, a set of highly coveted rocks. Had Larry not got wasted and instead had he properly documented his winnings, we would have had a very different conversation right now. To put it simply, there have been many events that share similarities with the modern lotteries, but the lottery in question, the one conducted by Queen Elizabeth in 1568, is the most comprehensively documented with enough proofs to say with utmost surety that it indeed took place and was indeed similar to the modern lotteries. Again, the reason to have the word recorded in the title. So, coming back to the lottery itself, and before we run you through all the nitty-gritty of the events that shaped the lottery, we have to first introduce the person who came up with this whole thing. And it wasn't Queen Elizabeth. There always has to be this one person pulling the strings, churning his brain cells, sort of a mastermind. In this case, it was this guy, Sir William Cecil. William Cecil had quite a glamorous life. Often referred to by the prominent historians as the master of Renaissance statecraft. His talents as a diplomat, politician, and administrator won him high office and a peerage. Since Elizabeth I's coronation in 1559, Cecil remained at her side till his death in 1598, overseeing Elizabeth's government for 40 years. As expected, Cecil appears omnipresent in Elizabeth's history, extending the power of his office of secretary to interfere in everything, from the top-level international diplomacy to increasing the amount of fish in the national diet. In the early years of the young queen, England enjoyed relative peace and prosperity. Unlike the revolts in Netherlands and the increasing fierce conflicts in France, governing England had been reasonably smooth, and Cecil could justifiably take much of the credit. There was just a small list of issues that was bothering Queen Elizabeth though. Queen Elizabeth inherited a colossal debt from her father that she was expected to pay off. To keep carrying out international trade and overseas exploitations, she was expected to overhaul crumbling harbors and ports. Some, like Ramsgate and Sandwich, had declined dramatically due to the receding seas and silting up of the rivers. Rebuilding the navy and merchant fleet also seemed imminent. None of these come cheap. To make matters worse, conflicts in other parts of Europe were impacting England's cloth trade, which comprised two-thirds of England's export and underwrote tens of thousands of jobs. Anglo-Spanish relations were deteriorating fast. The Irish wars were beginning to cost too much, and in the English Channel, pirates were threatening trade. It was clear to Cecil that there was a dire need to raise money. Cecil had two options: seek Parliament to raise taxes or draw potentially ruinous money-lending deals with other countries. Parliament was quite determined to keep England as the lowest tax nation in Europe. Borrowing money from Antwerp's money market wasn't a viable option too, as the interest rate there had soared to an exorbitant 14%. With both options out of the way, Cecil was looking elsewhere to find a fundraising idea to finance the nation's overseas endeavors. In 1567, he struck upon the perfect idea. While interacting with English merchants, Cecil learned that cities such as Ghent, Utrecht, Antwerp, and Bruges had come up with ingenious methods to raise public revenues for building fortification and other municipal projects. A lottery. After learning the process of how one operates, Cecil was convinced that the idea would work for England. Cecil then had the task of convincing Elizabeth, who was suspicious at first. It took all the Cecil's guile and charm to persuade the reluctant monarch. In 2010, a letter emerged from Queen Elizabeth I, written in 1566, to Sir John Spencer, High Sheriff of Northamptonshire, explaining that he was to help organize England's very first national lottery. Similar letters were likely sent out to other high-ranking officials, but Spencer's is the only one that has survived. The letter gave instructions for collecting money, commanding that persons of good trust be trusted with the prizes. In the letter, Elizabeth explains that for every pound raised, 6 pence were to be kept aside to pay the salaries to the ticket sellers and revenue collectors. Spencer was to be paid 50 shillings out of every 500 pounds towards the efforts he was expected to put in. The letter also emphasized on corruption or attempts to cheat the system were to be severely punished. 400,000 tickets or lots were put up for sale nationwide at a cost of 10 shillings each. The lottery tickets carried no numbers. Rather, they were specially printed slips that allowed the participants to write their name alongside a short phrase unique to the participant. The phrase was to act as a password in case the participant gets picked. This provision of writing a phrase saw some really unique entries. For example, one phrase read, "God send a good lot for my children and me," which had 20 by one wife truly. With 20 kids, that too from one wife, no wonder he was dearly hoping for the prize money. The lottery itself was to be played without any blanks, meaning that all ticket holders whose tickets were to be picked were guaranteed a prize. On 23rd August 1567, a royal proclamation was published titled, "A very rich lottery general without any blanks." Posters 5 feet high and 20-inch wide, advertising ticket prizes and showing off the prizes were displayed prominently on the walls and doors around the city of London. The young queen hoped that even though a bit expensive, a prize of 10 shilling would not deter participants and that 400,000 tickets would be all sold to yield a net profit of £100,000, enough for harbour repairs. 30,000 prizes of a total value of around £55,000 were planned. The remaining 370,000 unlucky participants were promised a refund of 25%, or 2.5 shillings. The first prize was £5,000, an attractive 1.1 million in today's money. Split 3,000 in cash, 700 in gold and silver plate, and the remainder in tapestry and linen. The second prize was £3,500, divided into £2,000 in money, 600 in plate and the rest in tapestry and linen. There were 11 more premier prizes declining in value to £140, and then various others from £100 to 14 shillings. In addition, the very first person to draw a winning ticket was to get a welcome prize, a bonus of silver gilt plate worth £50, and the next two to get a welcome prize of silver plate each worth £30 and £20 respectively. Foreigners were enticed to take part by only having to pay half the export duties on the goods won, or goods purchased with the prize money. To further sweeten the deal, anyone participating in the lottery was granted a temporary immunity from arrest for all crimes, except felonies, piracy, and treason. With so many attractive prizes and a guaranteed jail-free pass, one may think that people might have lined up to buy the tickets. Not really. Right from the start, the support was low. People quickly worked out that the odds of 1 in 16,000 in winning the lottery were stacked too high, and they abstained in mass from participating. Little did they know that their following generations would be willingly pouring money on odds as high as 1 in 300 million for some modern-day lotteries. Cecil did all he could to reach out to the potential buyers by targeting wealthy counties. About 3,500 merchants who ran the clot trade were also approached. Yet even the Irish, carrying the reputation as a gambling nation, bought tickets worth less than £500. Besides the high entry cost of 10 shillings for most, the length of time between the initial sale of the tickets from 24th August 1567 and the draw due on 25th of June 1568 was a huge disadvantage. Thanks to the poor understanding of the process, those who participated were confused over precisely when the draw was supposed to take place. On 13 September 1567, the Lord Mayor of London had to issue his own proclamation promising that the draw would not be postponed beyond June 1568, without a very great and urgent cause. He spoke too soon. Unfortunately for him, the draw saw many delays. The Queen, under the guise of mismanagement, kept postponing the draw, hoping that the sale of the tickets would eventually bring in enough money. While the Queen was borrowing time, Cecil did everything he could to rope in as many participants as possible. He set up propaganda campaigns to persuade boroughs, towns, and villages. He sent a body of 20 surveyors, including treasurers, collectors, and hundreds of constables, to tour the country and whip up enthusiasm. So much was the persuasion exerted by Cecil on local municipalities to sell the tickets that a number of municipalities themselves participated in the lottery. Even Yarmouth, traditionally independent, bought 2 blocks of tickets, each worth £15. Its motto read, "Yarmouth heaven, God send thee speed, the Lord he knoweth thy great need." The Lord Mayor of London, who bought 30 tickets, simply said, "God preserve the City of London." Despite the best efforts from Cecil and his appointed surveyors, the lottery never gained public's trust. It wasn't just the poor response that plagued the whole process though. The logistics of carrying out a fair and corruption-free lottery also proved to be quite challenging. In fact, for quite some time, the lottery collectors struggled with improper instructions. Many who initiated the process fell ill, and some even died, further delaying the draw, as the Queen awaited books of tickets to be returned from the collectors. As a result, the draw itself did not take place until almost 2 years after the lottery's inception, eventually seeing the daylight on 11th of January 1569. It took place outside the old St. Paul's Cathedral in the city of London. The process to draw winners was as follows. 2 separate urns were used, one containing the names of participants and the other containing all the prize tokens with blanks. Each prize draw employed 2 separate draws, one from each urn. According to the decree by Elizabeth, if a name was to be pulled from the first urn, he or she was to be awarded a guaranteed prize. Hence, the lottery carried the name without any blanks, the guaranteed price being 25% of participation cost, or 2.5 shillings. For example, if a name was to be pulled from the first urn and a blank from the second urn, the winner would be refunded 25% of the participating cost of 10 shillings. An eager crowd watched as a blindfolded child picked tickets and prizes from the 2 large urns. Despite the lackluster sales of tickets, the drawing continued without intermission for 4 months till the 6th of May, day and night. All accounts indicate that a 12th of the planned 400,000 tickets were sold. Was it Cecil or the Queen? Can't say for sure, but certain terms were added when the tickets were sold, stating that the price would be scaled down to the percentage of tickets sold. Clever, huh? This meant that the total prize money was reduced to just about £9,000 instead of more than £100,000 initially planned. So under the rescaled prize amounts, the first prize was reduced to a meager £416, about a 12th of the £5,000 initially advertised. To compensate for the reduced prize money, each participant was awarded entries the times the prize was scaled. That is, the name of each participant of 10 shillings was placed 12 times in the first urn, thus eventually reaching the total of initially planned 400,000 participants. The second urn contained 29,505 prize tickets bearing 1/12 of the original value, together with 370,495 blanks. The problem was to match the two sets of tickets because each had to be drawn by hand from the two urns. Hence, the process lasted 4 months. Even though the lottery itself appealed to few, the drawing drew quite some attention. In order to conceal the identities of the ticket holders, the names of the participants on the tickets were replaced by jocular remarks. These remarks were read out to the jeers and cheers of the crowd, swailing ale and munching pies that were baked in the ovens cheekily dug in the nearby buttress. Imagine Ricky Gervais hosting Golden Globes in the middle of Richmond Park, and the event lasting for 4 months straight, day and night. If the jocular remarks were not enough, the unique phrases written by the participants were a work of art too. The crowd was treated with the lines like "In the God I hope" and "A fart for the Pope" by William St. Leger of Canterbury, who held ticket number 230,364. Or, "The head of a snake with garlic is a good meat" by Thomas Watson of Cirencester, ticket number unrecorded. Annam Waldegrave of Burus, ticket number 343,775, was refreshingly straightforward with her "Sing Shellington shall thousand win, why should I fear to them in?" Or remember the phrase we mentioned earlier, "God sent a great lot for my children and me, which have had 20 by one wife truly." It was from William Doherty, The West Home, ticket number 193,315. I have definitely butchered some names. Apologies. So who won? Sadly though, the names of all the winners, including the grand prize winner, are unknown. But then the prize money was scaled down so much that not that many would have won anything considerable. The only person who benefited, if a report filed by the French ambassador Monsieur de la Motte Fenelon is to be believed, was the Queen herself. According to him, she withdrew a large sum of prize money for her own use shortly before the draw, as she always found it impossible to live within her income. Despite frequent investigations by auditors, people believed the slander. As for the rebuilding of the ports, an emergency 12-month loan had to be raised from London merchants via the Privy Council. Future repairs, including the modernization of Dover Harbour, relied on bizarre schemes, such as charging 2 shillings and 6 pence fees for all the licenses for the nation's taverns. Queen Elizabeth never conducted another public lottery during her term. That's it for today. In the next episode, we will cover another such interesting story from the world of money. Until then, goodbye.